Oh, thank you. Okay, you ready? Okay, cool. Let's get ready to go. Hi, welcome to the Nocturnal Space Workshop. I'm Trej and this is Iris. In this video I'll be showing you some models I've been working on for the Infinity game by Corvus Belli. Now I first started getting into Infinity towards the end of last year, and I got the Starmada box set. I went for Starmada simply because they've got a motorbike dude that reminds me of Judge Dredd, and then they've got another guy with a long coat and he's wearing like armour under the long coat. Anyway, it reminds me of the Mechanical Man from the first Hellboy film. So I was like, yes, those are cool, I want those in my army, that's the one I'm going to go for. So I started painting up the models. I started with some of the rank and file guys rather than the my favourite models, because I wanted to I wasn't quite sure what colour scheme I wanted to go for. So I sort of worked it out with some of the infantry guys, and then I found out that there's a new edition of the rule set coming out. So let's just say in the past I've had armies invalidated when certain games have been had new editions of the rules come out. So I thought, right, I'll put a pin in that and I'll come back to it later when I know what the rules are, and then I can carry on painting the rest of the army. So that's what happened. The new edition of the rules came out. Luckily the army had not been invalidated, so I was able to use the same box set that I'd already started on. And I also got the new Tinker and Zetbot kit that came out at the beginning of this year. So I've been working on those, and I just thought I'd show you how I'm getting along. Now, a little bit of advice when you're painting an army for the tabletop, this is a gaming army, is don't try and paint the entire army for Instagram, because you'll just get massively overwhelmed with the pressure of that one. When you're painting an army for the tabletop, you just got to remember these 3 words. That's good enough. Okay, it's just got to look good on the tabletop. I can see the colour of my guys, I can see the colour of their guys, I can see the details on these guys and the weapons. Okay, that's good enough. Then you can try and do it to the best of your ability, but you just start at that level. Okay, so as I'm going along now, I've figured out the actual colour scheme, I can go forward and I can start paying more attention to the more character models and so on. But this is what I've got to so far, so I'm just going to watch the video with you and I'm going to talk you through what I've done. Does that make sense? Yeah, that should make sense. I mean, you've seen these sort of videos before. Yeah, are you going to sleep on me there? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's go and watch this video then, okay? Okay, so first of all, as with any metal kit, you want to get rid of any flash, any excess sprue. So just clip it off and file it down, then a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. That's just to help the super glue to stick. What I like to do is to actually get the entire army glued up. I like to see them all together, see what they actually look like as an army, as a force, and then at a pinch you could always play with them. If you get the chance to have a game before they're painted, you're allowed to do that. Yeah, I did film that backwards. It was just easier. We've all done that, right, as well. The sticking your fingers together, that is not filming it backwards. So then for this guy, he has like a bald head and a beard, and he just sort of looked kind of like an old man to me, a little bit like me actually. But anyway, I thought, well, if I give him like a braided plait, then maybe it'll look a bit more like a Viking or something like that. So that was the goal, that was what I was aiming for on this one. It was very fiddly, plaiting together strings of green stuff like that. I kind of got there in the end. I was happy with how that turned out. It's again that thing of, that's good enough. And then I want to have a second hacker. You do get 1 hacker in the Starmada box set, but I want to have 2. So I just got this model and I just basically started out making the mask, which I just mushed about until it looked like a mask as I wanted. Well, that's good enough. And then I was thinking about the hand. Now I wanted it to be like an oversized hand. Again, going back to the guy that I liked because it reminded me of the Hellboy film. I really like it on Rasputin at the beginning. You'll remember he has like a big oversized glove that he's using, so I wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be like Rasputin's giant mechanical glove from the Hellboy film. So that was what I was aiming for. So yeah, I'm just using the super glue to bulk it out a little bit and bring it together. Then now in Infinity, what you see is what you get is not that strict, but I personally like it, so I wanted her to have a submachine gun as she has in the rule set. So that's what I was doing there, just making an ammo chamber. So yeah, so this is a spaceship. It's from like an old film. You've probably never seen it, I don't know. But what I was wanting to do is for the bases, I wanted to mould a couple of bits of like cool sci-fi gadgets, sci-fi gadget looking bits. So yeah, I just took some molds with a Das clay, and then I put those to one side to dry. While they were drying, I made some other textures onto the bases, just with whatever little bits I had lying around. This is the base from an old monitor, and once I did that, I thought that was quite cool. It reminded me of Tron, although I don't remember Tron having the circles, but I'm probably thinking of the circles on the backs or something. I like Tron. I'm looking forward to the new Tron film that's coming out actually. Anyway, so I just made some basic patterns on it with the Das clay, and then file around, make sure it's all clean. Several of them did come loose, so a lesson learnt for future is to actually put a little bit of super glue onto them first and then put the Das clay on, but these ones glued straight back on, so that wasn't really an issue. So then I marked out where I wanted the feet to go, and then I was able to actually drill holes into them. So I had the two mats down there, so I didn't drill into the countertop. And once the holes had been drilled, I just went ahead and I superglued them. And oh yeah, don't worry if your models break, it happens to everybody. So yeah, just a bit of glue, repair this model, and then I can glue it back onto the base. There we go. So I've fallen in love with Activator. I never used to use it, but I've started using Activator quite a lot lately. So then just go ahead and do the other models. So large and small, it's just the same process. Mark out on the base where you want it to be. Careful not to get your fingers. Don't hold it like I was doing there. That was really stupid. I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, glue the models onto place. And here's a little tip. If you want to repair your mat afterwards, then just a little bit of baking soda, bicarbonate of soda and super glue, and you know, it's as good as new. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, so then those bits I got from the random sci-fi spaceship, yeah, just stick them onto the bases anywhere that I wanted a little bit of extra scenery, really. I don't like it when they build scenery onto the models, because then everybody has the same bit of scenery. It's bad enough we've got the same models, but to have the same, you know, they're all standing on the exact same bit of machinery or whatever that's sticking out the base. So this is just to make them a little bit unique, you know, customise them that a little bit further. Some of them though, like this one, I just want to fill that gap, so I got a little bit of bicarb soda again, and a bit of super glue, and then that just fills in the gap, and then it's like a bit of dirt, just a bit of activator in there just to speed up the process. Cleared out a bit, it got wet, cleared out somewhere, it had gone into the detail. Then to spray, use this Wilco primer. Wilco's no longer with us. I always use a respirator, and if you wear glasses like me, then just, you know, don't bother taking your glasses off, just ram it on over the cross of your face like I did. I'm actually using it too far away here, the spray paint. Don't hold it that far away. It ended up really dusty on the models. Get a little bit closer than this. That's bad spray etiquette there. But at least I'm wearing the mask. Okay, so then to paint the actual base blue, I just got a couple of different shades of blue, mix them together to get a shade that I kind of liked, and I put it on nice and thin. So I go over nice and thin, and then that way it gets into the crevices, and also it doesn't leave a very thick coat that, you know, leave the texture of the paints and so on, and then you can go over the top of it if you want to change things later. So I just mixed up a couple of random sort of beige and brown shades for the leather and so on, and just went around picking out any points that I thought might be good in a kind of a leathery look. This is just some cheap silver paint that I got from Temu. Whenever I'm on Temu, I always like to look up and, you know, throw a couple of random things into the basket. I mean, it's good to get those places where you can get the random affordable resources from. And yeah, I was making it up as I went along, just thought, you know, she reminded me of Batgirl, and in my head, Batgirl has red hair, so I went, yeah, I'll give her red hair. Again, Temu Gold. And so originally I was going to do the shoulders bone. I think that's why I was doing the white first of all, and then I thought no, I want to do it metallic, so I went back and do it gold. So I painted anything that's metallic, I went over black, and then dry brushed on with the different metallic colours over the top of it. Then just mixed up some brown and black together to make a wash, and then I thought I'd save the rest of it to use for later. So I just got this old tub, added a little bit more and a bit more water to water it down, and then there you go, I've got my own mix of muddy wash. Then for the hacker, I wanted to build a bit more detail. Now I'd seen the other modelling, you know, a bit closer up, so I added a bit more detail to that oversized glove, and just tried to imitate what was already there on that one, but in, you know, a larger scale. And yeah, so yeah, you can add on once you've already undercoated. Don't be scared to go back and model more on once you've done that. And it can be a little bit fiddly, but you know, just get in there, just fiddle about, move it until you get it into the position that you like. And it was really just building up more detail, because at this scale, you know, again, tabletop miniatures, they're not for Instagram, they're not to be scrutinised, it's just for the tabletop. It's that thing again, that's good enough. So yeah, just get in there, make a bit of texture, a bit of detail, something that stands out, so it's going to be the gold against the rest of the blue and so on. And yeah, I thought that's good enough, that'll do me. But then I realised that the gun that I chopped off, the gun hand, the pistol needed to be put back into the holster, so I just made like a pistol grip to go in there as well, and then that replaces the one that was taken off. Once the green stuff was dried, I used the file there just to file in a bit more texture. I then thought, well, I may as well mix up my own batch of the blue, so then all the models are all the same. So I just yeah, made that as a ready mix, and then went round and painted up the other models with that. Once again, going around with different shades of flesh. I want them all to have. It's supposed to be like the United Nations. It's supposed to be from all the nations of the world. So I want them to all have different skin tones, from pale to darker skins. So I just mixed up some different skin tones. Then went in and yeah, got some dark washes in, and then dry brushed with the blue over the top of that kind of thing, just to you know, get some highlights and some shadows. I don't like to do do highlights too much. I like it to have like natural highlights. When you pick it up in the model and you move it around, I feel it should have, have the natural shadows in there. I don't like the object source lighting, so I was really struggling with these. It's supposed to be like glowy or something, but I couldn't get a colour that I liked, so I thought instead I'd go for like a darker one, and then I figure out, I can always change it later, but for the tabletop, is that thing again of that's good enough. And for the base, I wanted it to be a bit sci-fi, that Tron thing again, so I thought, well, if I make some lines in it, kind of make it kind of neon, that was the idea in my head anyway. And then that could look cool. And then just these are markers for the direction the model's looking in, so they needed to stand out too. So fast forward, and here we are, the Tinker and Zebot kit. One thing I would say about the Infinity, Corvus Belli models in general, is they are very finely detailed. I really do like their sculpts, but they could do with some instructions. If you look at the Zebot here, and then you look at the legs, and it doesn't really tell you how those go together, or what bits are even the flash that's overhanging, and what to be cut off, and what's part of the model. But you just have to do a dry fit and very carefully take off any excess pieces, and you can always glue them back on if you do make a mistake. That's isopropyl alcohol, by the way. I decided to move it into that bottle. It just looks nicer on the shelf. So lesson learned from last time, and I put the super glue on before applying the DAS clay, and then just go around putting some texture onto it. The DAS clay will keep for a long time as long as you keep it sealed, by the way. So once again, just there's a couple of random bits with some interesting shapes. I did regret my decision to do these later because, of course, I'm doing like a neon paint effect in all the recesses, and once the Zebot is mounted on that one, I did find it difficult to actually paint the neon into the middle. So yeah, that was a bit of a bad choice on my part. As you can see here, the super glue was all clogged up on this one. So I broke my drill, as you can see here, but I came up with an idea of, I did have another super glue bottle on the side, so I thought I'd just cut this one open and pour the remainder of the super glue into the brand new bottle, because I always leave a bit of a gap at the top there. There was a little bit too much though, so I put a little bit into the other bottle there. Now it's my first time using these things. I'm not really sure what benefit they have. Maybe they're just supposed to stop your super glue nozzle from getting clogged up like the other one did, but I've not used them before, so I wasn't quite sure how you're supposed to use them, but I just sort of had a fiddle about and kind of got used to it in the end. It is very fiddly, very finicky, but you've got to give it a try, haven't you? So yeah, finally figured out where those bits go. There's like a bit on her belt that you just sort of attach that pipe to. If you're watching and you're trying to figure out how to actually glue it together yourself, that's where it goes. But once it was all secure and in place on the base, it's time to give it a spray undercoat. Now they're all undercoated, you can see any bits of flash or anything like that you've missed, so you just have a quick look around, see if there's anything that needs a little bit more attention before moving on. You can also see the detail of the model a little bit easier once it's been undercoated as well. As you can see, there's a big lump of flash there on the back of this, the Zebot, so just file that down and use the metal file there, but also use just an emery board, which emery boards are actually really useful little tools, and so you file it down with the metal file first, and then the emery board just sort of smooths it down even further, and as you can see, you get a nice smooth finish. So then went back and undercoated. So once that was undercoated, I thought I'd have a look at the larger robot, the companion to the Zebot, which is the Zeta, and see where that needed another undercoat too. So once they've been undercoated, I can then go ahead with the painting proper. Now I wanted to have like a stripe of the different colours. It's going to be gold and blue like the rest of them, but I wanted to have a stripe of the different colours down on that large tank area of the Zebot. So I masked it off first of all, so then I can just go and paint it up right to the edges of it in one colour and then up to the other side of it on the other colour. It makes sense in my head anyway. So first of all, mask it off so then I can dry brush with the gold. Now as you can see, that black paint that I'm using, it's supposed to be matte, and like most matte paint, it lied and it's actually kind of a satin finish, which is not very good for dry brushing really. So I would always recommend going over, this is something I've learned doing this actually, is I'd recommend going over the undercoat with a very fine coat of some kind of wash, and then that would just give it a bit of texture, a bit of grip for when you're painting other coats over the top of it. And then once again proceeded with the gold onto the larger Zeta unit, and so I just sort of painted it directly on rather than to dry brush, because this is for the fine details. I really wanted it to stand out. And then this is just a different metallic paint that I picked up in one of the craft stores. I thought I'd give it a go. Once again, didn't really dry brush all that well. It actually kind of left kind of a speckled kind of look, so I did switch to the other metallic paint at some point, because when I say speckle, it's like glitter, you know, you get like glitter left in there. But anyway, I just sort of proceeded and carried on swapping through the different paints I had until I got a finish that I kind of liked. And then you go over with black just to mask off anywhere where you did get across. Paint the wrong area. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So there we go. Anyway, there I am giving her a wash with my homemade mud wash. That's the same pot of mud wash I did last year with the other models. I'm still using it. Just keep adding to it every now and then. And here you can see the model, the Zetbot, once that's been taken off. And now I've got metallic blue. Yeah, so I'll paint that directly on. Once again, over that satin finish undercoat that was supposed to be matte. Didn't really work all that well. So anyway, I thought I'd try stippling it. So on the larger Zeta unit, I just stippled it directly on. This turned out to be a really good effect. You just go over it a couple of times and blend it in as well as you can do. It's a really simple, really effective way of painting. I've actually noticed quite a few people talking about this on YouTube lately, saying, you know, oh, don't airbrush, use stippling instead. Well, they never call it stippling. They always try and make out it's like some painting effects that they've made up. I don't know why this is a new trend that's going on, but anyway, you know, kids have been doing it in school for years, so I don't know. But anyway, just go over with the metallics and then give it a good wash with my homemade mud wash. Again, this is just brown and black mixed together. It's just basic acrylic paint. So slap on a thick coat and then just dab it down with the kitchen paper, and you just do that all over. You want it to get into the recesses basically, and then you get the kitchen paper to just take it off on the top layers, on the highlighted areas, and then once again go around just stippling on. Dry brush where I can, where I think it's going to take. The gold works better with the dry brushing, I think, and then the blue works better with the stippling. And you just go around and then once again just do many coats, giving it a wash, dabbing it down, and then going back with the stippling. I asked my wife Amelia if she wanted to have a go. She's quite into her arts and crafts, but she was a little bit worried that she might hurt my models. I said, no, don't worry about it, you can't hurt my models, it's fine, come and have a go. So she came into the studio with me, and I just said, it's fine, look, here's how you do it. You've done stippling before, we've all done it in school, remember? She said, yeah, I know how to stipple. So yeah, she just got into the paints and got stuck in, and we had fun that afternoon. So then on with painting the Tinker. I thought with this one I'd try something different, and instead of going on with the blue directly onto the grey, I thought I'd actually paint it black first, where I want to have the blue for a uniform, and then I can paint the blue onto the black and it will come out much darker. I thought I'd give it a go and see how it turns out. I also wanted it to have much darker skin tone to the others, because I want all my models to have a different skin tone, that's all. I don't normally do whites in the eyes. I just thought I'd try it. I thought it might have a good contrast with going for the darker skin tone. Normally with lighter skin tones, I tend to do shading around the eyes in the recess there, but I thought I'd just give it a go, really, see how it turned out. You have to try these things. Okay, so I'm painting the blue directly on there, so some areas are left grey, other areas I painted black, so I get different shades. And then blue again onto the unit that she's carrying. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be in game. I'm sure somebody's got some reason for it, but I just went around and carefully painted in the blue all around the uniform, and I think this actually worked out much better, and I think I'm going to use this technique of painting it black and then the blue on top for the rest of the models going forward. So then give it a good wash, again dabbing down with the kitchen paper just to take it off the raised areas. Remember to always make sure it dries naturally in between layers. Okay, so then you can see how it builds up highlights basically. But I want to have even more highlights onto the box, so once again I went to the stippling method. I maybe went a little bit too light, but I knew I was going to be using the mud wash to bring it back down again afterwards, so that's fine. So just stippling it on to get a bit of variation across the model there. The shoulder pad, again, I wasn't quite sure what colour I was going to do with the shoulder pad, so once I'd highlighted it, I then went back in with my homemade mud wash just to bring it back down again, and I just went around the model and did it on a few different areas just to get a bit of highlights in, for example on the fingers on the gloves there. Well, I've decided it's gloves. I suppose other people might have it with bare hands and it's sort of wristbands. It's entirely up to you, it's your model, you can paint it how you like. So then going over the unit there, I thought what I might do is actually try doing the Starmada logo onto that handheld unit. So I just got a few different yellows. For detailed work like this, if you go for like a darker shade first, so you build it up with a dark shade, and then don't worry if you make any mistakes, because that's going to dark, it's going to blend into the background later. So you go with a darker shade, and then you go with a lighter shade, and then you go over with an even lighter shade, and you just keep building up like that. It's not the most perfect paint job in the world, again, it's good enough. But yeah, I was quite pleased with how it actually turned out. You can use this for Space Marines and things like that if you want for your chapter symbols, that kind of thing. Personally, I like the hand-painted look rather than having, you can get transfers and things. I much prefer to have the hand-painted look on your models, but I think that turned out okay. So then I added a little bit of the gold onto the model. Once again, I went around and painted it black first anyway, where I was going to do the metallics. I was just making it up as I went along. Again, there's no painting guide, there's no specific way that you have to do it. And I just used the different metallics, whatever I happened to have to hand at the time, and just went around and picked out little details. Then with different, just mixed up a few different browns for the leathers and so on, and it just go around and picking out the different colours. You can see what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm getting so concerned about explaining every single little thing that I'm painting here. Except that part, that was just, I thought, a little bit of a gold pattern onto the trousers, onto her pants, might actually make it look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more sci-fi. I'm not quite sure it worked out. I think it just looked like I was painting a butt. So just going around, picking out the details, as I say, just wherever you feel it might work out, and then going on with the mud wash afterwards to shade it. Just added a little bit of red there, just for a little bit of variation. I was getting a bit sick of having just the blue and gold all the time. I think it adds a nice little bit of a spot colour. Also notice that she has these little doohickeys stuck onto her. I'm assuming that's where she can plug into the machines directly. So again, going with a heavy mud wash. Heavy mud wash over metallics looks really good. I keep calling it mud wash, it is just black and brown, But yeah, just dab it off to get some of the highlights off. I'm not sure, at some point I think I painted that sort of metallic as well. That part there, you've got to be really brave when you've done a bit of the hand-painted symbols, then cover it up with some kind of wash. But don't worry about it, just trust the technique, it'll turn out okay. So I thought I'd try just lightening the lips up with a bit of colour. I think I went a little bit too bright, so I tried to bring it back down again. I sort of played around with that a little bit more as I went along. Now I thought I'd treat myself to some actual fluorescent paint for this one. So where I tried to use the pink in the recesses in the bases on the other models, I just got the fluorescent pink to go around and pick out the highlights anywhere where there's supposed to be lights really. So on the robots models, obviously they've got the eyes there, and then I could pick out any lights on her unit as well. So her unit on the units that she's holding, that kind of thing. And yeah, you remember your thumb can be a very good palette. So after I'd done it, it's still a little bit dark, so I went around and put a little bit of white on, so then I could go over it again with a little bit of a watered down pink. Now there's some fine detail. I don't normally use a very small brush like that, but sometimes you have to use your fine brush. So once the white had dried, I went over with a watered down fluorescent pink, and then it gets sort of very, very light in the middle and then dark around the edges. So hopefully it'll look like it's sort of like the glowy light that sort of fades as it goes out. And speaking of glowy light, I thought I'd use the pink again on the arms and legs of these guys. I really actually quite like how that turned out, so I'm going to do that for the rest of the army as well. And then use the fluorescent paint to really bring out those neon cracks in the floor and so on. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be actually. It's just, in my mind, that's how Cyberpunk floors work. I mean, of course everyone knows that. So there I am trying to get the paintbrush down between their legs as well. It really was, I can't stress how difficult it was to try and paint that, but as you can see, I'm just trying to get a uniform look across the board there. And then that's a jar I found that I thought there'd be a cool paint box that can hold my paintbrushes in between actually painting things. So yeah, just went around, finished off the bases like this. I got some varnish to try as well. I'll put that on in a second. Now, like the undercoat, when they say matte and the undercoat, the matte turned out to be satin. Well, the same thing happened with the varnish as well. I got some varnish to try. It said matte. It's not matte. It's more of a satin finish. So I figured it's okay because these are gaming miniatures. So the more I play with them, the more that satin finish will actually rub off and it'll become kind of matte. I'm thinking of having a look though, see if there's some way to bring it back down, because some of the ways they're actually suggesting is using like isopropyl alcohol or something like that, but that will work to actually rub off the paint as well. So I don't really want to use it. I decided to give her like the glowy eyes as well. I thought that'd be a cool little feature. I'm not entirely sure that I like it though now, so I think I might go back and change that later. I don't know. That's the cool thing with models though, you can always repaint them if you don't like what you've done. And then just to finish off the bases, just quickly going around black, and then these are the indicators showing which way they're facing, so need to make those nice and bright to stand out. And there's that varnish. Anyway, the models are nearly finished now, so thanks for hanging around, and you know the drill. Click like and subscribe. It really does help the algorithm find like-minded people. And I'm not on any social media, so if you want to chat, just leave a comment. And do something creative just for the fun of it, even if it goes wrong. Especially if it goes wrong. That's how you learn. It's literally how science works. You can only do the best you can, and that's good enough. It's not flawed or defective, it's what makes it unique, just like you. Remember, you're perfect just as you are, and people love you. Look after each other, and look after your pets, because they love you too. Here's the gallery.